Hello, my friends, and welcome to this reading, Venus, a Battlefield, which is intended for those currently downed by heartache. I came up with this reading when I was kind of remembering of the times when I was downed by heartache and would have really liked a reading like this. I'm not currently downed by heartache, so this isn't like the song Heartache to Heartache, but it kind of is, because in a way doing this reading is honoring the heartache that I experienced in the past, and this is the work that I'm creating from that. So when you're ready, your timestamps are down below. I will catch you at your reading. Bye. Okay, pile one. Welcome to this reading, Heartache to Heartache. Well, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I am not currently, as I am doing this reading, in a state of heartbreak, but I definitely did plan this reading around remembering times in which I was in heartache and wanting to deliver messages that I wish I would have had in that moment. Obviously, that's not the intention when I was shuffling your cards. This reading is for you, but the reading itself, Venus, a Battlefield, that idea came from wanting to do a reading that I could have clicked on back then. Okay, anyways, here this first part is the message of comfort. So 5 tarot cards and the oracle cards here, and with this tarot deck we answer, and with the Lenormand, answering the question of advice on where to go from here. And when I was shuffling the cards for that part, the question that came through was, what's your best course of action? So first, the message of comfort. Okay, so one message, real mundane, that's coming through. If you're thinking about dyeing your hair, go ahead and do that, because we start with the figure over here on the left, and if we're gonna kind of take the central figure as the same character throughout this progression, like this is a little story, a little comic strip, you know, dark hair over here, and then blonde and blonde over here towards the end. So not necessarily if you're trying to go blonde, but if you're trying to dye your hair, you know, you're going through it, you're feeling emotions, you go for it. Do the change to your physical appearance now. Now's the time for it. You're going to be forgiven for it. It's allowable when you're going through heartache to do the things that are going to make you feel empowered and comfortable even, or whatever it is, beautiful, attractive. And if dyeing your hair is part of that process, go ahead and do it. And also just the whole blonde moving to blonde and then yellow. I don't know. It just something that came through if that's relevant to you. If not, don't worry about it. The message here is, the message of comfort is partially less is more, but also that your process towards, I was going to say a better tomorrow, but that sounds so corny. Your process towards better days is going to look or feel very confusing, and it might almost feel like it goes against what you rationally know or understand. So we start with the 7 of Cups and we move to the 4 of Cups. So immediately this decrease in number, in weight, but immediately after we go to the 10. So this understanding of, or rather you having an understanding of something being a lot, and the relief that you feel when you're away from it. And because you're becoming aware of the relief that you're gaining while you're away from this thing that's a lot, you're starting to realize just how much this thing is. Now, it could be that person that is the root of this heartache, that situation itself. I mean, that's what we hear about, so that's likely what it's about. But in another way to kind of interpret this is maybe in the past you've kept a lot of options, and or maybe a better way to word that is you're used to keeping options. And whether that's true or not, at this moment, when you're being presented with options, you can't take any of the things that are being offered to you because you're still focused on what you had before these things came along. And all of that process of not being able to accept what's being offered to you, and at the same time dwelling on these things that you are sitting here with and choosing over the things that are being offered to you, that whole process, these things that you're holding, is becoming a weight. It's you're starting to recognize how much it weighs on you. And so the message of comfort is that is part of the healing process. You're meant to gain that understanding so that in that understanding of, hey, I don't, this weight that I'm under is uncomfortable, becoming aware of it, you are now able to do something about it. And what is being suggested is a change beyond the whole like dyeing your hair thing. A change is visible here because these two really do look the same. Like just the hair, and I know that she's a she. She's more of a process of the alchemical process that this figure is going through, because the Hanged Man is also about alchemy, and I'll get to that in a second. But the change happens here at the Ten of Wands, if we're sticking to the whole hair change, where in the relief that you, and if you're it's a reading about heartbreak, so if the relief hasn't arrived yet, it will, but be prepared for when that comes, because the relief comes with the understanding of how much either this situation has taken its toll on you, or how much it is going, like how much the process of healing is going to be, because of the things that you're going to become aware of. And the things that you're becoming aware of are not only like weighing on you, but are also changing you. You are changing as a response to this weight that you're becoming aware of. And I want to talk about the Hanged Man, because the Hanged Man upwards is upside down. And for me, whenever he comes up in a reading, whenever the Hanged Man comes up in a reading, I always use it as a key to interpret the reversals. And so like, if the Hanged Man had come up upwards, I would take it to interpret like, oh, there's some, you need to seek wisdom and elevation, as the Hanged Man does, in order to gain the perspective necessary to unlock the Queen of Swords energy, which is cutting things off and leaving them in the past, accepting new things and what is really meant for you, but being willing to defend yourself and your energy and your space against those who it needs defending against. But it came up reversed. And so the idea here being that the way to healing, the path to a greater tomorrow, is one that you don't know yet, because the Hanged Man being reversed, it's something you're either not willing to do or something you just don't know to do yet. But once you arrive there, once you know what it is that you have to do, once it becomes clear, once that path to happiness and better days starts to get clearer and clearer, you'll start to embrace this change. And you'll see that change is actually gaining you this enlightenment or happiness even, that you've been seeking even with this situation. And in doing that, in aligning yourself and prioritizing aligning yourself more to and prioritizing this seeking of enlightenment, you'll unlock this Queen of Swords energy against this situation, against people like this that have caused this heartache, and against this weight, against this understanding that you're gaining from this situation that, like, man, that's weighing a lot on me. And she's free from that. She has that like severed tie. So you successfully cutting away from this thing that weighs on you, this heartache, but that really coming only after you go through something you've never really gone through before, walking down a path you've never walked down. And that can be scary, but more so what it kind of comes through as is that it's going to be confusing. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to, because the Queen of Swords upwards is a clear mind. It's a clarity of mind that pierces through any confusion. So when it's reversed, there is that indicated confusion. So this process is meant, like, he's walking towards this confusion with this understanding now of the weight that he's carrying, that you're carrying. So with your understanding of the weight that you're carrying, that process is meant to be confusing. And the message of comfort here is that you have to keep going. It's okay that you're confused. That's part of the process. You're meant to be confused because only through confusion can we start to address the things we don't know. We're confused because we don't know things, and when we start to seek answers towards that confusion, then we unlock the hangman. And when we unlock the hangman, because we're seeking answers to we're seeking clarity to confusion by seeking new perspectives, going places we haven't been before. That's what unlocks the hangman. By unlocking the hangman, we unlock the Queen of Swords energy, and again, successfully liberate ourselves, yourself, from this heartache and this confusion and this weight. I didn't really talk about the oracle cards because they were pretty much I read them at the beginning, but I used them to get these interpretations because at the bottom of the deck we had prosperity and compassion. Prosperity, here I'm interpreting prosperity as the abundance that you had to offer this person in this connection, and compassion being a reference to the immense compassion that you had for this person, the space, the consideration that very likely wasn't reciprocated. I don't know that, but if it's being said here, and now we're in heartache, the assumption is made, but I don't know that, that's just me being me. But okay, prosperity and compassion here at the bottom of the deck. In the past, that prosperity and compassion that you had in abundance to give, and towards the future, sweet thoughts, which immediately brought to mind To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. If you haven't seen it, please watch it immediately. But one of the rules that they talk about is letting good thoughts be your sword and shield. And so, like, good thoughts being the departure from the heartache and the agony and maybe even anxiety that you're feeling. So that's part of the change that I was seeing, changing from this place where we were we had we had abundance and compassion to give to this person. And now we have to change from that because we can't give them that anymore. And so that creates this heartache that we're currently in. And so to depart from that, there needs to be a change in our mentality, in actively holding positive thoughts. Now, we have to be careful not to adopt toxic positivity because it's very easy to adopt toxic positivity when we are just trying to fill our lives with any type of positivity. And you'll know you're being toxically positive if you aren't allowing yourself to feel anything but positive emotions. The point here being is that to someone in your situation who is having an overabundance of those negative emotions, the anxiety and the pain and the hurt, and what this is saying is that you need to make space and balance that out with these good thoughts. So as much as you're focusing on this heartache, please, as you're moving forward, part of that change is putting the effort to actively, intentionally hold thoughts in your mind that are positive. Fill your space, the music, the media that you intake, make sure that it's positive so that it balances out this negativity that you're kind of going through. And I'm not negativity, it's heartache, it's important, we grow through it, it's not negative. But you get what I'm saying. And the gambler, kind of someone who that's where I got that, like, this is a new path somewhere you haven't been before, and that kind of was that supported this idea of the hangman, somewhere you haven't been before. You're taking a gamble, you're taking a chance to go down this path you've never walked down, essentially. So okay, that was the message of comfort. I'm gonna kind of like arrange these and then put the other cards out. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the tarot first and then bring in the Lenormand. Now, what's incredible, you saw the shuffle and 2 different decks. We moved from 12 to 13, which is beautiful. This whole message is beautiful. So what's your move? Where do you go from here? What is your best course of action from here to embrace the transformation? In this deck, it's transformation, but it's the card 13, death. So allowing the past to die and stay here, not allowing it to continue, not giving it a future, basically. But transformation, what I like about this iteration is that it's less about this situation and your feelings for it dying, and it focuses more on you and the change that you are going through. So look, I'm sorry, I know it's corny and you probably don't want to hear this, but it's a cliche for a reason. This is happening for a reason. You are going through this heartache for a reason. Now, let me be very careful when I say that, because that doesn't mean that you don't have every right to be angry and you don't have every right to feel whatever it is that you're feeling about it. And honestly, if the whole idea of it happening for a reason takes away from your healing, please throw that away. Because honestly, if you decide that that doesn't fly with you and that's not your ministry, basically, like, please don't allow for me as just a voice on the internet to like disrupt that, because that's not No. But if it does help, like that this transformation that you're going through is because transformation, since it's death, it's a transformation that like you're not going to revert back. This is a caterpillar here about to turn into a butterfly, and the butterfly doesn't turn back into the caterpillar at any point. That's just not how biology works. But what I'm saying is that this is something that's you're going to take with you moving forward. And it's not the heartache, it's not the pain, it's not that this person, don't give this person credit for this transformation. You're the one doing the work. This is your glory, this is your honor, this is your reward, if that's what you want to call it. That feels weird, but basically the work that you're putting into, going through that confusion, seeking new perspectives. Oh, these are reversed. Should I put those back? No, we talked about them. And in doing that, in embracing that confusion and allowing that change, then it's acknowledged here. And what I like about that is that this transformation is supported by the 9 of hedgehogs, which is the 9 of pentacles, which is wealth. And so in this transformation, there's this abundance that we were offering before to other people. You will have reclaimed that for yourself and create it for yourself, and it'll be noticeable. Okay, this is something that is going to be noticeable. Now, it is sort of indicated here a little bit. This is not to give you hope, okay? This is to prepare you, because this is battle. And this is the enemy. So, okay, this isn't about taking them back. And no, none of these cards suggest taking this person back. In fact, it suggests the opposite. But part of this does kind of give an air to there being an opportunity at some point in the future for you to, look at the situation in this person and really make that concrete decision to move away from it and leave it in the past. Now, I digress because that's getting towards the end. Why I say that I'm not saying that to give you hope is because, that could mean that this person is going to notice this wealth and abundance that you have for yourself. There might be some late recognition, and late recognition, we don't want that. Like, let's not settle, please. But in this wealth, in this transformation, the 3 of spears, which is the swords reversed. The 3 of swords upwards is the card of heartbreak and heartache especially. But here in this wealth, it's reversed. It's something that it's no longer inflicting you, or it's not something that's like debilitating you anymore, because again, that transformation has happened. Now, the 2 of hedgehogs, the 2 of pentacles, is that option, that weighing of options that I was talking about. On the one hand, this heartbreak that existed in the past that you're no longer downed by, basically. And on the other, the King of Cups. And the King of Cups means a whole bunch of things, but here in this reading, it's just as simple as the master of emotions, the master of your emotions. Mastery over your emotions, but not just like all of your emotions. I'm interpreting it here as mastery over the emotions that rocked you, that you were controlled by, that you were overwhelmed by here in this energy at the top, at the beginning, where you're at now, basically. And that's where I'm kind of getting that indication that there might be a slight chance that this person might come back, and that's why you have this option, whether to choose this space of heartbreak, even though it's not here in the present, it was, it still exists there, it's a possibility there, or choosing to close the door on this and just move forward, close the door behind you and start your next chapter. And given that, we end with the door, which this door is like notorious for remaining closed, and even beyond this interpretation, this iteration, and this tarot deck, the King of Cups is someone who is emotionally isolated. So again, the advice being, And it's not even advice, because again, at this point, you won't need this advice. You won't need the advice of like, choose yourself, don't choose them. By this point, you'll be so changed, and this idea of liberation, of moving and moving past this and closing the door on it in order to start a new chapter, that is what's going to just overwhelm your heart when it comes to having to decide. And if it isn't about this person coming back and like recognizing the wealth, it is about you recognizing what this heartache was. That yes, it was painful, but now, in comparison to everything that you've gone through and how much you've grown bigger than this heartache. And it's like 3-2. So again, that relief, and the relief coming from the better option of being able to move on, because you're now able to, even though it feels impossible now, like you will get there. Transformation, King of Teacups. So with the Lenormand, we have Hilda, Tower, and Birds. And Hilda is this deck's interpretation of either the lady or the gentleman. So it's you. This is you. Hilda's you. Tower is isolation, solitude, loneliness. Birds is a crowd of people, or if not a crowd of people, then just society at large, or just a group of people, just people in general. What I'm seeing here is that, okay, so you in isolation is gonna attract attention. And so that's why I'm not saying it's like entirely guaranteed that it's gonna be this person who's gonna come back and notice this wealth. It's other people. It might be options. Again, it might be like this thing that you're used to, where you if you're used to keeping options in the past, you'll move into this space where through this isolation and through this transformation, you're gonna be fighting these people off. You don't want them anymore. Enough with that. Leave me alone. My peace is more sacred. My solitude, you can't compete with it. And I keep on hearing when I look at this card is beating them off with a stick. So, again, like the advice being to really honor the transformation, to embrace it, to embrace the solitude, to embrace what magic comes from it. The wealth that, you're moving towards, the clarity, the transformation, the liberation. Embrace all of that and watch how much, like, you won't see the transformation as you're going through it, but it is happening, and the confusion and the weirdness and the not knowing what's going on is all a part of that alchemical process. Godspeed, my friend. I'm wishing you all the best, and I am sending you a warm, warm hug. Bye. Okay, hello pile 2 and welcome to this reading, Venus a Battlefield. Now, this first half is answering the question, or rather I was tuning in what I was shuffling these decks for, was for your message of comfort. So these cards are going to answer that. These other cards, other tarot deck and Lenormand, answering the question of where do you go from here, what the advice is on the matter. So to get started on your message of comfort, we have the Five of Swords reversed, the Nine of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Nine of Coins reversed, and the High Priestess reversed. We also have the Oracle, the Giver from the Oracle of the Roses, and from the Botanical Inspirations we have Lily, Majesty and Virtue, and we also have Tulip, Friendship and Gratitude. So one detail about you that I can tell off just these cards, just at first glance, is that you have a high tolerance for people's shenanigans, and if not, maybe patience is a better wording. You have a lot of patience for people, and especially the people that you love. And it seems like in this situation, we have the Five of Swords reversed, which the Five of Swords upwards is a confrontational energy, if not an outright abrasive energy. But it's an energy that's held in conflict with others, one in which you intend to win, but it's coming up reversed. And next to that is the Nine of Wands, which depicts maybe a little bit of anxiety, fear, this understanding that there is something to endure and make it through. And in the middle of the reading, which, if you notice during the shuffling, the bottom of the deck was placed here at the center, we have the Five of Wands, which is the card of active conflict. And so with these three cards, I'm seeing how you in the past have definitely refused or just you had a hard time confronting this person, or the truth of the matter being that it was an abrasive energy, an abrasive connection, something that was conflicting. There was a conflict between the two of you, and you not taking this energy of being able to basically fight for yourself in a confrontational way, matching this other person's energy, you repressing that, you choosing peace in those moments, created this energy of having to endure something. And that this situation with these two cards of not wanting, or it's not about not wanting to act, it's just choosing not to, it's not acting in defense. And like what we have to endure because of that situation, it's brought up. This is where the heartbreak comes from. At the root of the heartbreak that you're currently at is the conflict that happened there. What it could have been where things boiled to a point where you could no longer just take it, and you matched energy. Five of Wands, all of these figures, all five of them are matching each other's energy. So the Five of Wands is always, again, a matching of energy. So where in the past five, this reversed five, you were unable to, I didn't even notice that. I noticed that there was like two nines, but I didn't notice that there were two fives. The reversed five in the past, and because it's swords, it's almost like, if it wasn't that you didn't defend yourself, it's that you didn't match their energy. You didn't choose the sword. You reversed swords. You weren't cutting. You weren't aggressive. You weren't whatever it is. And that is what created having to endure it. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be that you choosing not to be violent in whatever way that means. I don't know why violent came up. That's kind of weird. And if it was, let's just take a moment to congratulate you on being here where you're at, for recognizing it and for advocating for yourself. Take a moment, because that's so incredible. And if it isn't that severe, then it could be, again, just matching their abrasive energy. Here in the past, you chose not to do that, and there was this thing to endure. And it was like, obviously, no one goes into anything because they're abrasive and we don't want to fight back, and it's this thing that we have to endure. There was obvious positivity and good things that led to you entering this situation. But it eventually did turn into this recognition of it being something, again, that you just had to endure and make it through, survive, basically. And again, these really harsh terms are coming through. So I'm wondering just how severe the situation was. And if yours wasn't a severe situation, then it could have just been that you didn't know better up until this point. You didn't know what it meant to match someone's energy without resorting to the things that they did, particularly if those things that they did hurt you and you not wanting to wield the same weapon that hurt you, basically. Where here it's like with the Five of Wands, it's you not choosing to get back at them. It's just recognizing I have to meet them where they're at if they're going to understand. The message of comfort here for you is there was nothing to be gained in this relationship, in this union, and there was nothing to be gained from your efforts into it. Now, that isn't to say that you wasted your time, because no relationship is a waste of time, no effort put into another person, no love given, nothing that we give the giver, nothing that's given from an open heart is a bad thing. So it's not that it was a waste of time. It's just that if you feel like, oh, if I would have just been a little more patient, or if I would have just been X, Y, and Z. No, there was nothing you could have done to create wealth here. The Nine of Coins reversed. The Nine of Coins upwards is wealth generated over a long time. So that's reversed. The wealth was never going to generate. There was no potential for wealth here. The High Priestess upwards she's a keeper of secrets, so she's a keeper of knowledge. It's the High Priestess is like any person who has a huge amount of experience and knowledge about a topic or topics. And so we trust them with all of their knowledge, and it almost feels like they hold all of these secrets because they know things that, like if her topic is astrology, she's so experienced and so learned in astrology. More so, she's demonstrated, a knowledge that supersedes the average astrologer. And so that's the High Priestess energy, a deep experience and understanding gained over a period of time. And so there was no potential for that here either. Basically, what these two cards here at the end are saying is that the only this conflicting energy, this energy of endurance is all that this relationship is going to generate for you. With Lily, majesty and virtue. That's what gave me that idea of you being patient, virtue, being virtuous, where to kind of give you like the connections made in my head, virtue brought to mind like religion and really devout religious people, and how a lot of times that virtue, if wielded improperly, like can create issues because that person is so virtuous that they allow certain things for the sake of that virtue. And so this idea of here on this side, virtue being on the side of the Five of Swords reversed, giving that idea of you being really patient with someone who didn't really deserve it. And over on this side, friendship and gratitude, the quote was, "Let us be grateful for the people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom." And so this idea of gardening and blossoming on the side of the Nine of Coins And the Nine of Coins shows a successful harvest, but that was reversed. And so this idea of good people being the gardeners that make our soul blossoms, and the garden being, negated, this idea of that not being possible here. This person was not a charming gardener who was going to make your soul blossom. So, all right, that was your message of comfort. Let me go ahead and put these cards and adjust them so that I can put these here. Message of advice. Where do you go from here? The Hermit. The Moon reversed. The Fool reversed. Okay, we're starting with 3 majors. Okay. See. The King of Spears, Swords. The King of Swords reversed. And at the end, the 4 of Swords upwards. Lenormand adds panic, pentacles, clouds. Okay, alright. Just so that you can see the tarot that I'm talking about, I'm going to put Lenormand here on the side, but we'll go with that. So really strong in this message. There's 3 cards, 2 in the tarot spread, 1 in the Lenormand spread, that indicate a lot of rest, a lot of you taking time, the appropriate amount of time and space to properly dig in to processing all of this. Processing what it is that happened, feeling everything that you have to feel about that, feeling everything that you have to feel about this particular person, digging into the circumstances that led to it, who it is that you were at the beginning of this, who it is that you became at the end of it. We start with the Hermit. And the Hermit is kind of a lot, or the High Priestess has all this knowledge that she's gained over time and experience as well. The Hermit is kind of the High Priestess, before the experience is had and before a lot of the learning has happened. The Hermit has learned and does have experience, but the point of the Hermit is that time spent away, particularly in solitude, and the maturity that happens there. The maturity that is made possible when we do remove ourselves from other influences in order to really address and understand what is ours to feel and address. And so with starting with the Hermit, where do you go from here? Solitude. You need to heal alone. So if there's a rebound, or if there's someone that, you're kind of looking at, I'm not going to say, I'm not here. I don't know your life. I'm not here to tell you don't go for a rebound. No, have fun if you need to, do what you need to, but understand that in order to properly heal this, you need to be alone. So the cards are definitely advising against any commitments. You investing yourself emotionally in the same way that you did here, because again, in order to properly process all of that and put it to bed, in order to move forward clear of it, you need to heal alone. Just to kind of keep going with that theme of solitude and rest, the 4 of Swords is also a card of repose and of isolation. In the Pamela Coleman-Smith imagery, it's actually a coffin, and it depicts a coffin within a church. And so that idea of like quiet stillness, there is no, we don't see any body within the sarcophagus or the coffin or whatever it is. But Jessica Dorr wrote about the Four of Swords once, about how there was this historical practice back in the olden days where knights, they had all this money and they would go into war. They would commission their coffins before they went to war in case, they didn't make it back. And so they would have those arrangements ready. And if they came back from war alive, they would spend time inside the sarcophagus, inside the coffin, as a way to honor, that they came back with their life, be grateful, to show gratitude, and they spent time, reflecting, processing what it is that they went through and saw, and again, expressing gratitude for making it through that endeavor. So solitude, isolation. And Hammock, just look at her. She's alone and just doing something that she wants to do. So really strongly, where do you go from here? Seek solitude. Seek yourself. Give what you were giving here to yourself now. And what's going to be gained in this solitude, and by you processing all of this and giving yourself proper time and space for this, we have these three center cards. Now I'll go one by one. The moon upwards is a symbol for the way that the night shrouds everything. The darkness of night shrouds the truth of things. What do I mean by that? When the light is on in your room, you can see everything clearly. But when it's nighttime and the lights are all off, it's harder to see, obviously, because it's dark. But, if there's like a nightlight or a low light, you can sort of see the silhouettes and things that are there, but you can't see it clearly. You can't see the details or as clearly as if when the lights are on. Kind of that idea of how, when we were kids, that pile of clothes in the dark looked like a person, but then we turn the lights on and it's just a pile of clothes. That's what the moon is. It's the illusion that is caused by the darkness. And so the moon here referencing the truth shrouded by the darkness of this relationship, the truth that this relationship shrouded. And the truth being, it's going to be different for each of you, but the essence of that truth that we're talking about here is, one, yeah, obviously, that you had no business being there because you were so much better than them, but the inherent strength you hold, the capacity for power that you hold within yourself. And why am I saying that? Because at the center, we have the Fool. And the Fool is the protagonist of the major arcana. I should probably make a detailed video explaining that for people who don't understand that. But just suffice it to say that the Fool is it's energy that's always willing to step into whatever comes next. There's no hesitation, and it's not because it's careless, it's not because it's reckless, it's just because there's just this inherent faith that everything's going to turn out okay. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you have that capacity where you can just go with the punches and not really care because everything's going to be okay. That's not so much what I'm seeing this card here in your reading as. It's more so the Fool next to the moon. That's what the moon is referring. The truth that the darkness of the moon of this relationship was shrouding was yourself. The truth of yourself, the capacity that you hold. And supporting that, we have the King of Swords. And yeah, they're all reversed, and I'm putting them upwards because I saw it when I was reading it. The reversals were the things that you did or you don't have access to at this moment that will come into view, into focus, that you will gain access to once you activate this hermitude and seek that isolation, seek yourself, basically. And when you seek yourself, what you're going to find is that there was a lot shrouded, and honestly, it might go beyond this relationship. just the ending of this relationship and the processing of it, and you coming into alignment with yourself, might help you to realize just how much of your life, just how much of yourself has been shrouded. What's there to be gained? The fool, you, yourself, the capacity that you hold, the power that you hold. And the King of Spears, which is an energy of mental mastery, rational mastery. So this can indicate like the King of Swords is very often regarded as like a professional, because it's someone, a master of intellect, a master of rationality. So someone who has pursued a lot of education, so like a degree, and so they're, again, a professional, someone who can do something. So one of the things that you might feel inclined to do is like seek a career, like in discovering yourself, one of the things that you might discover is like, oh, I actually want to go into this vocation, I want to go into this work. And if it's not about that, then the King of Spears here is declaring that one of the things that is you're going to find here, gain here, is this capacity for clarity, the capacity to see through the illusions that you were kind of fooled by in the past year with the moon, the things that you couldn't see before, because in this processing you're going to gain understanding of, why didn't I see that before? And it's because you didn't have the experience. And in gaining that experience of that relationship, ending it and processing it, you'll gain clarity on those things that you weren't clear on before because you didn't have experience, and now you did. And moving forward, you won't be as easily fooled because you will have gained this clarity, this mastery of the mental realm. So, let's get into the Lenormand, which echoes, it's a confirmation of, it's basically saying, actually no, it kind of adds a detail to this process here. Where do you go from here? Understand that it is going to be a long and hard road, and that's what Lenormand is saying. Hammock, again, is referencing this time of isolation, of repose, of self-focus. Pumpkins, in this deck, it's the Lenormand equivalent, or it's this deck's equivalent of Lenormand's cross. And so something heavy to bear, a cross to bear, something heavy that you have to basically carry. And clouds is sadness. It's the things that do come and shroud the light, basically. And so what Lenormand is adding to this message of, there's a lot to gain from this work in isolation. Be warned, or not even warned, because that makes it sound bad, and it's not about you being scared, but just when you start to feel the weight of this work, when it starts to really take a toll on you, and you start to feel the sadness or whatever it is that all of this might start bringing up, as heavy as it is, understand that that's a part of the process. Understand that that's one of the markers, one of the landmarks to help you, or to let you know that you're on the right path, that you're on your way to the next phase of your life where all of this is in the past and you've processed it and you're able to put it to bed, basically. But one last thing I do want to point out, and Lenormand is really meant to be a strict practice. You're really not meant to go too far from the traditional interpretation of the card. And so Clouds is very strictly a card of sadness and grief. But I want to point out how we were talking about the moon being, this thing that shrouds the truth. It creates the illusions that the darkness can create. And how through this process, you'll gain the experience and the know-how to be able to see past the illusions you faced in the dark, the illusions that fooled you before. You'll gain the clarity to no longer be fooled by those things. And I love this imagery here at the very end, the very last card in the whole spread, of her being like, it almost, I don't know, maybe it's just me seeing it here, but she looks almost joyous to step into that rain. She's not wearing any clothes. She's happy to go into that rain. And yeah, sure, in the image she's running out to get her clothes, but the openness of her arms, she's looking up, and there's just this, it's the opposite of panic. It's peace. There's this peace with what she has to face. And that's what I'm seeing, is that where you're heading is towards becoming the type of person who has wisdom and who has experience and knowledge, and really just this high priestess. And I mean, look, that's what she's looking at. This is where you're heading. Godspeed, my friend. Warm hugs. I will catch you for the next one. Bye. All right, pile 3. Welcome to this reading, Venus of Battlefield, for those downed by heartache. This first half of the reading, 5 tarot cards, 3 oracle, answers the question of, or rather it's tuning into a message of comfort for you, in this moment of heartache. And the rest of the next half will be advice on where you go from here, basically. And so your message of comfort, we have the 9 of Cups reversed, the 6 of Cups, the World reversed. The 3 of Wands reversed. Wow. And the 6 of Wands. And with the Oracle cards, we have the Storyteller, Amaryllis, Determination and Creative Achievement, and Clematis, Intelligence and Mental Beauty. I hope that's how you pronounce that. The message of comfort here is that although the conclusion you have arrived at isn't the one that you wanted, isn't the one that you would have written for yourself when you first started all of this, your efforts into gaining this conclusion or getting to where you're at today. Although you didn't get what you wanted, there is a lot to be gained from where it is that you're at. Now, I can't get into any more specifics beyond what I'm going to get into. I'm trying to get specifics from these cards, but nothing's really coming up. And so what that tells me immediately is that that's how varying the stories are for each of you tuning into pile 3. And so for me to give specifics would then skew the message for another person receiving it. And so I have to stay a little vague. Stay with me. Let's point out how we have the World front and center. I always call the middle card front and center. And it's the major right there dividing 2 cups minors on the left, which is traditionally associated with the past. And on the right, what's traditionally associated with the future, we have 2 wands cards. And what I'm really digging is how there's 6s to kind of culminate both of the energies. So like the second card is a 6, the second card is a 6 here. The World reversed is what is giving me that idea of a conclusion that isn't what we wanted, because the World upwards is, hold on, let me cover up a little bit. The World upwards is a conclusion, but the magic of the World card is that it reminds us that any conclusion is the gateway to our next beginning. Reversed, what is kind of indicated to me, the World reversed is it's not, here in this reading, it's not so much that the conclusion wasn't reached, it's just that the conclusion isn't, again, what we hoped for. And to support that, we start with the 9 of Cups reversed, and the 9 of Cups reversed only barely skews the message of the upwards card, like where other reversals can block that energy entirely or create the opposite. The 9 of Cups reversed isn't too far off from what the upwards meaning is. And what I mean by that is that upwards, there's this wealth that this dude is enjoying. He has this full table. He seems to be celebrating something. Everything's going great. Reversed, the wealth that he's like celebrating is still at the top of the card. And this tradition of the wealth, the joy, being at the bottom of the card when it's upwards, so that when it's reversed, it stays at the top. That's something I've always kind of picked up on, and that's what I mean by that, where the reversal doesn't skew it too much. What I mean by that is that the 9 of Cups reversed is that joy, that wealth is still available to us. But again, it's skewed. It's not exactly what we were shooting for. It's not picture perfect like we had pictured it at the beginning. But the wealth, the good things, the blessings that have blossomed from all of our work, those things are still there. And to support that message of a wealth that is accessible but isn't what we entirely wanted, the Six of Cups, so a decrease of value, or rather a decrease in the amount of quantity, not value, a decrease of quantity. And why I took that back, the whole it's not that it's less value, is because it's this idea of less is more, of quality over quantity. And although you might not recognize it right now because you might be dwelling, no, you are emotionally dwelling on this conclusion that isn't what you wanted. And why I say that you're dwelling is because we start over here, nothing but emotions about this conclusion. And that's how I know that you're dwelling on it. And that's okay. That's normal. It's not what you wanted. You're allowed to feel how you're feeling, okay? Especially if in honoring this sadness and disappointment right now, you're doing it so that you don't let it get in the way of the blessings that are coming, or that it is moving into the future. So pretty much like get it out of your system now. So that's okay. It's okay for you to do that. It's okay for you to feel however you're feeling. I'm not trying to like talk any crap about you being emotional about it right now. That's totally okay. That's why we're here. That's why this reading is here, to address that dwelling. And so although you can't see it right now, or even if you do, the message of comfort is that you have the capacity, or even if you don't like put the effort into it yourself, this thing will turn out to be a victory for you in the end. So to get to that, the Three of Wands reversed next to the World reversed, it gives me this message of something that you can't move on from. And that seems kind of negative in the context of a heartbreak reading, because it's like, oh, you're not going to get over this. That's not what I'm saying. That these two cards are attached. It's that this conclusion that isn't what you wanted, but that, it is what it is and you're here. That conclusion isn't something that you can easily get away from. It's not something that you can plan your way out of. This is just what it is. The conclusion that has been reached, there's not really anything that you can do about it. Upwards, this is someone who makes plans, and more than that, has put his plans into action and is now pretty much just waiting for the other factors of that plan that he has no control of to do what they're going to do in order for them to generate what he's planned for. And reversed, it's, again, there's no successful planning. There's no successful movement beyond what it is that you're feeling and wanting. So again, this conclusion that we've reached where you're at, it's something that you can't really get away from. It's not something that you can plan your way out of. But that's okay, because while this look 3, we're like decreasing 9, 6, 3. Although it looks detrimental and it might start to look like the opposite of a blessing, victory is assured with the 6 of Wands at the end, which also supports, the 6 at the end also supports that idea of there being something that you're losing, quantity. There is a loss here, and that's why there's this disappointment. At the end, you won't have as much as you had initially planned for, but victory nonetheless. And one of quality. To add to this message of you're dwelling on it now, and that's okay. Give that space. This isn't something that you can get away from, that you can plan your way out of. There's a lot of accepting that we have to do here. Be comforted knowing that all of this, misery is the word that wants to come out. And if that's what it is, so sorry. Heartache is misery. Disappointment is misery. But whatever you would use to describe this situation, know that it is leading towards a victory for yourself. Now, sorry, before I continue to the oracle, I do want to mention that part of this process is the alchemy of emotional matter into motivation. So using the hurt the disappointment, whatever it is that you're feeling about all of this, to propel you forward, to keep you going. Now, to add to that message, what the oracles definitely support what we're saying here, but they're giving their own message in that the story is in your hands. How you tell the story, how you perceive the story about everything that happened, how you perceive all of this, it's up to you. Now, what do I mean by that? I've been here, so I can kind of give you examples from how it happened for me, where when the wound was fresh and I was in the throes of heartache, because I was so enveloped by those feelings, I couldn't see anything else. And it took time and a lot of space, like giving myself the space to feel those things and giving myself the time to feel those things properly. It took a lot of that before I was able to, a long time before I was able to look past my hurt feelings and look at the situation with an honest pair of eyes, an unbiased pair of eyes. And sure, on the one hand, I was recognizing like my shortcomings in that relationship, but also theirs and like their shortcomings and the ones that I like had my rose colored tinted glasses on for it, and didn't see the red flags. And so that like me feeling foolish and me feeling like I got played in some way is what motivated me to really close the door there, because I was now able to get angry because I was able to see clearly how I had been wronged, which I wasn't able to see when it was happening because I was so in my feelings for them. So I used my anger and I used all of the feelings that I had felt, and I used that to propel myself into like a new chapter of my life. And part of that process was how, when I was feeling all of my emotions, it was the same thoughts every day, and I would dwell on the same conversations and on the same things that happened, and it was like this daily routine of torture for myself. And I had to learn how to change the story to where it wasn't, oh, this person did X, Y, and Z and I felt this way about it, the end. It had to turn into, this person did X, Y, and Z, this is how I felt about it, and this is what I did about it, because this is how I felt about it. And it's continuing the story, adding to the story to help you. It's your story, it's in your hands. So obviously the storyteller, we're getting that, but determination and creative achievement. Determination is something that's necessary to make it through anything that we're going to make it through. Determination is also what gave me that idea of using like motivation, transmuting to motivate. That is determination. It's digging into something and seeing it through because that's how strongly we feel about it. Creative achievement being your capacity to, again, transmute the story to the one you need to move forward. And clematis, which is intelligence and mental beauty. Intelligence is the power of the rational mind. Mental beauty is pretty much the same thing, but mental beauty is a more poetic wording of intelligence. And so again, poetry, making poetry out of the harsh circumstances that you're currently at. Now, sure, this could definitely mean that, like it could be that literal where you could be a creative person. Wants does indicate creativity, and emotions are pretty much the fuel of creative endeavors. So if you're an artist, then this is definitely telling you, use this for your art. Use what you're feeling, pay attention to what you're feeling, study it, get a master's, get a doctorate's degree in, the candle just went out. Get a master's degree in what it is that you're feeling so that you can then transmute that and use that for your art. But if you're not an artist, if you're not a creative person, if you're not someone who's going to do all of that, then what this is, again, it's the story that you tell yourself, what you are going to create out of this situation. The Clematis card says, wisdom is the abstract of the past, but beauty is the promise of the future. So again, the abstract art, wisdom is looking at the past and understanding it in an abstract way. Obviously, Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. meant his own thing. We're interpreting it our way for this reading. Where wisdom for you is looking at the past and making it into something abstract. That, again, art. And even if you're not an artist, then what is abstract but the morphing or changing of shape of reality to make it look like something else? And so that's what I'm saying. It's like that you have that power. It's in your hands. Like moving into the future, how are you going to tell this story to yourself and others? Is it going to be one told through the lens of your emotions and your emotions only, or are you going to dig in and look for the truth and tell that? To kind of give bullet points, the message of comfort for you is give yourself the time and space to dwell on what it is that you're feeling. It's important that you do so. But understand that this conclusion that we've reached isn't something that you can get away from or plan your way out of, scheme your way out of, basically. There's acceptance that needs to be worked on if, that hasn't happened already. But understand that although all of this may seem detrimental, maybe even like misery, there is victory that is promised here at the end. Understand that part of your gifts, part of your magic, part of your abilities is to transmute all of this into something that is beneficial to you. If you're an artist, feel free to use this for your art. You are being encouraged to use your emotional matter in this moment for your art, basically. And if you're not an artist, then it's about understanding that you have the capacity to transmute all of this whole situation into something that's beneficial for you. Beyond it being a victory for you in the end, beyond that, it is still within part of your blessings is how you look at this situation, and how you will refer to it moving forward. All right, 4, your message of advice. Where do you go from here? The 2 of Pentacles, the 6 of Pentacles reversed, the Magician reversed, the Queen of Swords, and the Moon. Lenormand adds, hammock, lily, ship. All right, so while I interpret the tarot, I'm just going to put the Lenormand off here to the side. Your advice is to be mindful of how effective it is. Okay, I was going to say either this person or other people, and they both apply. But in this instance, the person that we're talking about here, they have a way with words, or they know what to say to you. And, you've done this work, or you're being advised to do this work. Of transmuting the emotional matter into something that motivates you. You're being assured of things turning out well for you in the end. Because of that, there's a strength you'll be gaining, a capacity to create boundaries where you couldn't before, a capacity to defend yourself when you couldn't before. Whatever the case is, there is going to come the time when you will have the opportunity to fend off basically this person's efforts to continue their games or to try to come back and start things again. So to get into the cards, we start with the Two of Pentacles, which is always about choices, weighing our options, and really not weighing our options so much as maintaining the effort of holding two options, both of which require a lot of our input. They both require our attention, and so it leaves us a little drained to carry what we're carrying. And so one of the things that requires your effort, and one of the things that does take a lot of effort from you, is the give and take with this person. The give and take being the Six of Pentacles, which is all about transactions. And the Magician reversed is what's giving me this manipulator, this game player, because the Magician upwards is someone with words, someone who can create out of nothing, someone who knows how to get attention and keep it and do something with that attention. Reversed, then there's a little bit of, or there is nefarious energy attached to those capacities. So someone who knows how to use that for their own advantage, and those for their own intentions, for their own purposes, and those purposes not being entirely selfless or good. And so that the card of transactions and that the Magician are both coming up reversed next to the Two of Pentacles, which is about weighing things that take a lot out of us, that's what's going to help you to understand that this isn't something you need to keep carrying. There's an understanding with the Six of Pentacles reversed of a transaction that isn't reciprocated, or reciprocal. It's not equal. Someone is gaining more than the other one is, and so one of you is giving more than the other one is. And that these are reversed, and here you are represented with the Queen of Spears, the Queen of Swords. I mean, look at her. She's huge. She's finally has the size to stand up to a queen. And so even that might indicate like the power dynamics between you that have existed up until now, where this person is in a position of authority, however real or arbitrary that might be, and how effective they are at making you feel, cutting you down to size. That feels inappropriate, but like cutting down to size makes it seem like you belong down there, and it's not about that. It's like they just have a way of making you feel small and insignificant, and you processing your feelings and transmuting that with that work, you'll be able to recognize again how the transactions aren't equal, how this person isn't the person that they say they are, and how you're pretty much fed up with it. You're tired. You are now, because this isn't the only thing you're holding. There are other things that need your attention, that your attention and effort might be better placed somewhere else. And in acknowledging that, you're able to then put an end to this. Swords, cutting, ending, leaving it behind. And we end with the Moon, which the Moon is a card of illusions, think of how the darkness of night shrouds what we can see clearly in the day. A more mundane way to think about it is how like a pile of clothes in your room in the dark of night looks like a person or like a monster, and when you turn the lights on, it's just a pile of clothes. When you were a kid. I'm not saying you feel like that now, and if you do, that's fine. But my point being that the Moon is about that. It's the illusions that darkness can create out of what is really there. And so we're ending with the same message we had with the Oracle cards, where there is the truth of what happened and the illusion around it. But the illusion here not being a bad thing, it's just what you're transmuting things into. Because the Moon reversed, I would, especially like at the ending, I would interpret as you breaking that illusion, and it's like, I'll never be fooled like this again. And that's definitely what's being said by the Moon here at the end, next to the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is a master of intellect, of rational knowing. So again, it called back to Clematis, which was about intelligence and mental beauty. The experience that you'll gain in all of this through feeling what you're feeling, transmuting that, recognizing all of this for what it is, you'll definitely be able to recognize illusions when they come up, because, you know, you fell for them before, but now that you see past them, you see past them. But the moon upwards here at the end tells me that you'll gain that power now. Like this person who can turn their ugly truths into something enticing. You'll pretty much be able to do the same thing, except your ugly truths aren't your selfishness and the things that you do to hurt others. Your ugly truth is all of this situation, all of this ugliness that others and this person have put you through. You'll be able to transmute that and create an illusion, quote unquote, an illusion about what this is. And there's something about like what you're going to transmute that into. Lenormand closes us off with hammock is all about seeking solitude. Not so much seeking solitude as much as it can be about like an ending, closing of energy. So here she's kind of just chilling, reading, not doing anything. It's her day off. There's nothing. There's nowhere she has to be. There's nothing she has to do. So the energy's closed off. This is a really like soft and gentle interpretation of what this card is, which is the coffin. Lily is about purity, and not so much in the purity of like the opposite of sin or of dirty, but purity as in the essence of self, like the essence of something, the concentrated form of something. And so in the closing of this horrible energy, hammock, there will come into focus your true essence, Lily. And with that, you'll be able to go the distance, ship. So even the Lenormand alludes to this transformation of like something ends, something comes into focus, and you use that. What you gain, what is gained, what comes into focus when this ends, is used to help you propel yourself forward. Ship, propel. And I was using that word propel since before I even saw the ship card. So like, I'm just going to leave it like that. Because again, anytime I want to go deeper and give mundane examples, none come up, which again is indicating to me that the situations are that vastly different. Your message, my friend, again, feel and honor how it is that you're feeling about all of this. Understand that it's not something you can change. And honestly, with what we're getting, you really don't want it to change, because you're going to gain a lot from it. Because victory it's coming. It's there. It's just about you getting there. Understand that it might feel detrimental. It might even feel like misery. But cling to the fact that victory is being created for you. Understand that you have the capacity to transmute all of this into something better. And be advised that this process of recognizing this person and other people, if it applies, for who they are, it's all part of the process, and it's to give you the opportunity to stand up for yourself, to advocate for yourself, and to say no more, basically. And in doing all of that, in the experience you'll gain from doing all of this, you'll have gained the capacity to make something magical out of all of this, whatever that means for your situation. Something will come into focus from all of this ending. And what comes into focus, what is created in this process, is what's going to help you move past this, close this, and move on into the next phase of your life. I hope that this helped. I will catch you for the next one. Bye.